Good morning and welcome to my 7th ramble of 2021. I hope you've had a good week. It's been absolutely freezing this week up here in the north. I don't know what it's been like down there. Actually I do, because I was in Swanage yesterday and the sea looked very, very rough indeed. That wind is just so chilly and icy. We've been trying to go out walking every day, but my goodness me, you have to wrap up warm. Now, I don't know what I said in my ramble last week, but for some reason I seem to get double the viewing figures from any other week. I don't know whether you're all just so bored that everyone needed to watch. I was just very curious because suddenly there was a great spike. I'm quite into statistics and just seeing how many people watch. Yeah, that was just very curious. But as I say, I hope you had a good week. I learned some new music this week because I listened to a bit of the Radio 3 choral evensong this week, and I heard a setting by Herbert Howells that I'd never heard before in my life. It was the St. Augustine setting, which when I researched it slightly, it turned out he wrote for a parish church, St. Augustine's Church in Birmingham. I can only imagine the choir must have been very fine at the time that it was written. Because he didn't hold back in any way, and you know, technically it's really quite difficult. I need to listen to it one or two more times, but it was very interesting. So if you want to listen back, it was a lovely evensong from Claire, recorded earlier last year, I think. Do listen. But yeah, it was just very curious to hear that particular set of canticles. It's always good to hear something new that you've never come across before. So, how did you get on with Quickfire 5 last week? I'm going to put my money on the fact that I doubt anyone got 5, but maybe you did. If you did, let me know. Anyway, here are the long-awaited answers for you. So, question number 1, I gave you 4 famous people's names and asked you which one wasn't a cathedral chorister. David Lammy, John Snow, Simon Russell Beale and Tony Blair. And the answer was Tony Blair. He went to Durham Cathedral School, but he was not a chorister. All the others were choristers. David Lammy, I think, at Peterborough, John Snow at Winchester, Simon Russell Beale, St Paul's. He was at St Paul's with me. I remember him well, age 9. Didn't have a beard then. Now, this is the one which probably will have stumped you. A famous German composer ruined his own performance career by using a homemade finger stretching device when he practiced the piano. Who was that? Well, the answer was Robert Schumann. He had this thing about wanting to make his fingers longer so that he could stretch further and become more virtuosic. He was a very fine pianist and, of course, wrote some wonderful piano music. But rather than enhancing his performance, it detracted because it damaged his fingers. So, a little bit of trivia for you. When you next listen to Robert Schumann, remember his funny fingers. Question number 3 for you hymn buffs. If the first line was, "O Lord my God, when I in awesome wonder," what's the second line? Well, of course, the hymn is "How Great Thou Art," and the second line, "O Lord my God, when I in awesome wonder, consider all the works thy hand hath made." That's the second line of that Stuart Hine hymn. Question number 4. Do you know Palestrina's full name? I just love these sort of silly things. Well, his full name was Giovanni Pierluigi da Palestrina. Bit of a mouthful, but that was his name, Giovanni Pierluigi da Palestrina. And question number 5, one of my favourites. Which priest and poet lived just outside Salisbury and walked to Cathedral Evensong every day, describing it as his heaven on earth? Well, I'm sure you got that. The answer was George Herbert, who wrote all those wonderful, wonderful poems. Easter, Rise Heart, My Love, etc., etc., etc. So it was George Herbert. So, I say, if you got 5, brilliant. But I reckon 4 will be the top marks this week. So, 5 more bizarre and really obscure questions for you. I never know whether they should all be musical or whether I should sort of mix them up. So I do mix them up. But I try, there's no football in it. So, question number 1. Which cathedral in the United Kingdom has the longest nave? Which cathedral has the longest nave? Not too difficult. Question number 2, and there's a little bit of a trick question in this one. Who holds the position of Master of the Queen's Music currently? Who is the current Master of the Queen's Music? And that's a slightly misleading question. If you know the answer, you'll understand what I mean. Question number 3. Which famous hymn writer wrote, amongst other hymns, When I Survey the Wondrous Cross, Jesus Shall Reign Where'er the Sun, O God Our Help in Ages Past? Who was the famous hymn writer who wrote those hymns? Not the tunes, the words of the hymn. Question number 4. Which Methodist preacher rode over 250,000 miles on horseback? That's enough to circle the earth 10 times. Who was it who rode all that distance on horseback? Not all at one go, obviously, but when he was out preaching. Who was that? And finally, very obscure one, which composer appeared on a £20 note until 2010? Whose face appeared on a £20 note? Have a think. So there we are, quick fire 5 for this week. Hope you enjoyed that. So as always at this moment, I just remind you about www.swanageteam.com, where you can find liturgy and music for this coming Sunday. And also next Wednesday is Ash Wednesday. So there'll be a live service in St Mary's at 7:30, but also John is putting up online a liturgy with some music. So there'll be online music for Sunday and Wednesday, and live service Sunday 8, 10:30, and again on Wednesday at 7:30. So we do invite you to come along or to watch. So to my choice of music for this week before Lent. I hope you enjoyed the blockbuster last week. Maybe that was the reason that so many people watched, because you all love Vienne Messe Solennelle. But I thought, again, before we get into the penitential season, I'd just choose something, no relevance to anything at all, just a piece I've always loved. And there are certain pieces which I think, I could give you a list of sort of 10 pieces that I think choir boys, or indeed choir girls, young children singing, absolutely loved. You know, their top favourites, the ones they absolutely adored. You know, I would always say, Parry, I Was Glad. The kids, you almost didn't have to rehearse it because they just knew it and they just loved singing their hearts out. And there were certain pieces like that whenever you put them down, they would be blockbusters. And also, you know, having been a chorister myself, I remember the pieces which I absolutely love singing, and this one comes into that. So this piece I loved singing, I loved directing it, and it has a fairly fiendish organ part, but actually it's a really fun organ part to play as well. It's not quite as hard as it looks, all the black notes. Anyway, it's a piece by Haydn. It was in an oratorio which he wrote around the 1770s or so, called The Return of Tobias. I think Il Ritorno di Tobias, written to an Italian libretto, and if my memory serves me right, it was very popular for the first performance. But then Haydn left it for a while, and then after that, when he tried to resurrect it again, musical tastes of the time had changed an awful lot, and the second performance really got hardly any audience at all, and Haydn realised that it was not going to be a hit, this one. And of course he wrote the Seasons, he wrote the Creation. Those oratorios were very, very popular, but the Return of Tobias just didn't really hit the spot. But there was one piece in it, one movement, one chorus, which people absolutely loved, and Haydn decided to take this out, and it has become now an anthem with a Latin text rather than Italian text, and it's become very popular, and it's very much in the repertoire now in churches and cathedrals. And in fact, I looked at it again this morning, and I was thinking, really, it is something that possibly at St Mary's we could do, because the choral part is really not that hard. A bit high at times. Some of the sopranos might get a little bit scared, but I'm sure you won't, because it's one of those pieces that just goes, you know. So maybe we ought to think about that when we can all sing again. Anyway, it's called Insane Advane Cure, known to choristers everywhere as insane and vain curates. It's in sort of two sections. Well, it's four sections really. You have this opening, very dramatic, full of dread and drama. And then you have a second section which is very, very lyrical. And then you go back to the bit with the dread, and then it ends lyrically as well and gently. So that's all I need to say about it really. You just need to listen to it. I'm pointing you to a performance where you've got the score as well, and I'm giving you a translation. You might know the piece, but I doubt it. If you do, if you don't rather, really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun, and see whether you think we should have a go at doing it at some point. So that's Haydn, Insane Advane Cure. So without any further ado, I'm going to pop over here and we'll do a little warm-up. So here we are. I'm sitting up nice and straight. You might be standing. If you want to do a little wiggle, do just get yourself nice and relaxed. If you can spend a bit more time just sort of warming up, that's great. You know, obviously I'm just doing a very short message for you each week, but do take your time. Last week we talked a little bit about breathing, just to remind you about keeping those shoulders down, and just when you take your breath, that you fill up nicely, but you're not in any way creating tension by getting all squidged up. Okay, we did that little kettle exercise last week, so why don't we just try that one more time. This time we did 8 counts. Why don't we try 12 counts and see if you can just hiss out, just controlling your breath, so that when you're singing you're not letting all the breath out straight away. So we're just going to go how did you get on? So you just breathe, you hold it, and then you let it out. All right. But if you practice that regularly, it will get easier and quicker. Okay. Good. So why don't we start off with a little siren? Oh, the dog is opening the door behind me. That's right, and you start low, start gently, and gradually just expand your range as you go through that. Okay, so let's do, shall we do a ya going? Ya, 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 ya. 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 That nice wide bright R with that soft palate raised. Remember that little trick I've spoken to you about before, where imagine you're walking down the street, probably before COVID, when you haven't got a mask on, and you see somebody you haven't seen for a long time, and you're delighted to see them, and you go, that's a sensation of lifting the soft palate. All right, so practice that. So how about let's start in B flat actually. Let's go to ma bla la, just going ma bla la, 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 ma bla la. Get the idea? Next one. Ma bla la, 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 ma bla la. see blue car. Shall we do the blue car? We haven't done that for a long time. Going, see blue car, 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 see blue car. And one more, let's do some arpeggios, just going, ah, remember that one? Legato, 2, 3, 4. And now let's do it staccato. And legato again. Last one. That beat me, that last one, but I hope you managed it all right. That's good, just legato singing and staccato as well. Good, so I hope that was helpful. I hope you enjoyed that. So, all that remains is for me to wish you a very good week. Stay safe, stay warm, keep smiling, and hopefully I'll see you very soon.